What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Modern Craftsman.
Yeah, I like that. It sounds kind of nice.
I just, you know what? Now I'm clapping because our guest today clapped a lot.
Did he? I didn't notice.
Did you not? Are you being
No, I
facetious?
didn't notice.
Oh, yeah. Is facetious the right word?
No, that's a word. Like
Oh, okay.
sarcastic.
No, I know it was a right word. I knew it was a word. I know
You
I
used
was
it
using it in the right
correctly,
time.
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, he clapped a lot, so you're gonna hear a couple claps throughout, which is fine, totally fine. I'm not picking. He's gonna hear this intro and he's gonna be like, "Oh man,
I
I
didn't
clapped.
clap.
Nick didn't tell me." He's gonna be so mad. This guy has a list of people that have. He's gonna hate that this is the teaser, but that have in one way or the other. I'm not gonna say wronged him, but doubted him, and he's chosen to write their names down on this piece of paper and reflect on them
And
in
kill
his
them. No,
no.
we're not.
God,
No. All right. Just kidding.
I'm like kind of leading up to no, but he uses that as motivation to be better and prove them wrong. And when he said that at first, I was like, whoa. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is like you got people you hate that much. They're
Yeah.
on a list. But he explains it, or I'm not gonna give it away. Listen to it. But we have
He had a little ode to Danny Wang with the sausage making.
oh my god, I forgot about that.
Yeah. I wonder if
Oh,
they're in
I
cahoots.
didn't forget. I forgot that it was a Danny Wang reference. I wonder if he knew that. He definitely did,
I
didn't
don't
he?
think so.
Either way, Tyler from Killowen Construction. You may know him from the Netflix series Dream Home Makeover. Sid and Shay McGee's builder partner. He built their personal home and
Back
has been
home
on
with
the
them.
TV. Yeah, and has built or been on the TV show with them. So take a listen.
Yeah, it was very interesting even in text message where you were referring to Tyler and there's not a lot of grown like men named Tyler. It was a very
Really?
yeah, it's a very uncommon name for people our age. Like there was one other Tyler that I grew up with and it was a girl. So even just listening to you kind of like your dialogue with him where you would say Tyler, I'd initially think that you were talking to me. I was like, damn, he's addressing me really nicely tonight. I
Hi,
was like, oh
Tyler.
wait, no, he's not talking to me.
Amazing. So 2 Tylers today. How old are your kids?
3 months, 2, 4, and 6.
Damn. I'm 5, 3, and 13 months. So we were gonna
There
go.
you go. You're kind of on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're kind of on the same schedule I was.
Yeah.
We were only supposed to have 4. Well, we have 4, but we thought we were shutting it down after that. And she's like, I'm not sure.
Yeah. It's the first 2. They were great sleepers. And so then we had 3, and then the third has been like she's adorable, but she is just a nightmare through sleep, like a force during the day. And my wife's like, yeah, I'm good. Like,
yeah,
I'm definitely good. I'm like, hey,
yeah, we're
whatever you want.
Yeah, we're 2 and 2. 2 of mine are pretty independent and cool, and then the other 2 are very emotional. Very emotional. But that's another reason why I love them so much, because they're really affectionate, but they're also very close to their emotions.
Yeah. My wife messaged me one day, was like, hey, there's this book called Raising an Emotional Child or something like that.
I think we've checked that out too.
Hold on, I got to pull it up because I want to make sure I get it right, because anyone that's listening to this, what is it called? Audiobooks. Where's my library? It is called The Highly Sensitive Child, Helping Our Children Thrive. And when the world is something.
When the world always ending.
Yeah, it's basically The Highly Sensitive Child by Elaine Aron. And she was like, we got to read it because, like, you know, Marley is she's so highly sensitive, and like her reactions are just not like, you know, not normal. So I'm reading it. I'm probably like 3 chapters in, and I'm like, I just don't understand this. It's like the psychology of a child. I'm like, I thought I'd listen to this and be like, now I know how to talk to my daughter, but no, it's just now it's more confusing.
Well, I'll put it in my wish list here. I don't know if I'll get to it, but
I know my wish list is much bigger than my actual read list.
I know I'm a little addicted to buying books and not finishing them, but whatever.
Yeah.
Highly sensitive child. Got it.
So you said your office is not done. You guys building an office?
Yeah. Yeah, so we bought a 11,000 square foot building on Main Street here where I live, and
that's awesome.
We are renting out 7 spaces, and we're taking the top floor.
Okay.
So it'll be cool. It'll be cool to have like a headquarters, because we have an office at our cabinet shop, but it can't support us.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna ask. Is it something separate from the cabinet shop? So it is.
Yeah. It'll be nice. I mean, I'm spending a fortune on it. Like it's the idea is it's when people walk in, it's going to represent the type of homes we build.
That's awesome.
So it's going to be pretty baller. I hope. We're probably about a month away from moving in, but we'll move in with like.
If you're a month away, you know if it's going to be baller or not. It's coming together.
Yeah, it will. So, but the problem is, we're going to move in actually without cabinets and without furniture because we're building all that custom, and I just got to I got to handle our paid clients first.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like we did a full kitchen just to show what we can do, and
totally.
And then like all of our conference tables and our desks and stuff we're going to build, but I can't put that on my team right now. They would murder me. So
yeah.
Anyway, we'll have card tables.
You're building some crazy big homes over there.
Yeah, we are. So
I mean, every time I see you placing concrete, I'm like, man, that foundation is so big. But you guys also like because we're working with Steve Teak, and
Steve's the man.
Steve's the man, and we're talking about our basement over here, and he's got this like crazy elaborate basement with these massive windows, and I'm like, Steve, that's nice, but they don't want to use the basement like that here. He's like, well, in Utah, it's like we're doing like 14-foot ceilings in our basement. I'm like, that's just, I get it. And there's some homes around here with that, but not.
No, Utahns love basements. They really do.
Why?
I don't know. I like mine because it's kind of like a little prison for my kids. I just throw them down there and let them run around. But I mean, not everywhere you can do a basement. So I think whenever you can, lots of people do because it adds so much square footage to your home. It's a little less expensive. We've got to go. You probably have the issues where you built 2 with frost depth.
Yeah.
But with our crawl spaces have to be 5-foot tall walls anyway. Right. So it's not a ton more to go a full height basement and not finish it.
Yeah.
So lots of people do that. And early in my career, we leave the basements unfinished a lot because we didn't have the budgets for them.
Sure.
But now they're just kind of like, I think a lot of kids come and live with their parents or stay with their parents a lot in our area. I mean, nationally, I don't know. I only built here, but I think a lot of people will like move in to their parents' basements.
Yeah.
That's like I feel like that's the, like, you don't want to be known as moving and living into your parents' basement. Like for a long time, I feel like that was the joke where it's like, dude trolling me is probably in his parents' basement right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm guilty of it. When I started this company, I worked for a law firm because I was going to go to law school, and I had taken the LSAT and applied to a bunch of schools and got into some, and I decided to take a job as a law clerk to see if I don't know, no one in my family worked in law, and I took it, and I did not like it. I worked there for a year, loved the people I worked with, but I just wasn't going to like it. So anyhow, I went and worked for a construction company out in Newport Beach, and we worked on the commercial stuff, the Newport Beach City Hall, which is a really cool building. But anyway, I moved back here to Utah while my wife worked in California, and she supported us while I started this company and I lived in my basement, my parents' basement. So I am that guy. I'm that basement dweller. And I'm thankful for it, but we didn't have any money. All the loans for when I started my company are in my wife's name. So I really wouldn't be here if she wasn't working, and it was hard.
See, I don't have. I think that that happens a lot, especially in our area. You know, it's expensive to live, and people get done school, and the housing market's crazy right now. So I think a lot of kids are getting done college or high school, and I guess college, moving back home and staying at home, which I can get to a certain point. But like when you were living at home, you weren't living frivolously, just like buying stuff that you wanted and kind of like, right?
No.
So like there's all these, I feel like there's this age from 21 to 30 where kids are living at home and they have like a brand new truck and then like all these toys. And I'm like, if I did that, like if I moved home and I came home with something brand new, my parents would be like, well, if you have money for that, you have money to move out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I don't know. As far as judging other people's choices and lifestyles, I can't speak to it. But as far as what I did and what I needed, it was a place to sleep because I was working my butt off. I drove a Ford Ranger for the first probably 6 years of my company, and I'm a bigger guy, and I still have that Ford Ranger. I gave it to my cabinet shop, and every time I drive in it, I was like, what was I thinking? Now I'm totally spoiled. I got this big baller truck now. But we were very, very frugal the first several years of our company. And unfortunate. I mean, I didn't get here alone. People helped me. Like, you know, my wife kicking butt, working a job she didn't like in California, and then my parents letting me live in their basement. So we didn't have any product. I wanted to build homes. I was a pretty novice carpenter in college. I did some framing and some finished carpentry, and I worked for a custom home builder. He doesn't really do what we do, but it was, you know, a long time ago. He built like 1 or 2 houses. But anyway, I really liked the home part of it. So that's why I got my degree in construction management, and then I graduated around the recession. So that's why I was trying the law thing. But the getting back into homes was really super important to me, just because, I mean, you'd probably relate to this. One of the reasons that our job, I think, is so difficult and also so rewarding is the emotions of homes. Yeah. Because when I was building commercial stuff, it was cool. It was fun. I love building things, but like there wasn't the emotion in it. You know, it's just like, okay, this is an office building. That's all good. And that's fine. But I really love kind of the corny part of going to someone's house when it's done. It's a project. They got their kids running around. It's a house now. It feels different than when it was just a project. I think that's really cool. And so the negative part of it is the most personal thing. All boundaries are dropped. It's the most expensive thing they're ever going to buy. So, there's days that are hard for sure. And, but I love building. I love my job. I'm really lucky to do it. And we're fortunate to have as much work as we do.
Why leave Newport Beach?
So I'm not from there.
Yeah.
I met my wife out there, but she's actually from here too, from Utah.
Gotcha.
It was mostly cost of living and my contacts. I just knew my career was going to be here. So, like, for example, I developed some land here that my family had owned. And that was, so I think I mentioned my first home was a spec home because I didn't have any product. Maybe I didn't mention that, but it was a spec home. The one I was building when I was in my parents' basement was a lot that my parents owned and we purchased. And then we built a spec home on it. And I had no residential or hardly any contacts in California other than at my current, I knew a bunch of attorneys. But I just didn't know how to get a sub base or even where to start, or I definitely didn't have the funds to do a spec house or just start coming and be like, hey, go door to door. I'm a builder. I couldn't figure out how to start it out there. So all my resources were back there.
Is wild. And the spec homes that, I got the chance to go hang out with Patterson, and it's like
Yeah,
some of the
they're
homes that
great.
he's got spec homes I'm walking, and they're, massive money. And it's
Mhm.
just, and it's so condensed, and I can imagine why it would be, daunting to even try to start in a market like that.
Yeah, and I timed it very well. I mean, I hope that was somewhat intentional, but we were coming out of the last recession. I think it was 2012, 13. So things were just on its way back up. So it was really good timing for me. I don't know how this would ever work, but lots of people from Southern California have asked us if we would build out there. It would be very cool to have a division out there. I just, again, don't know how it would work, but
Sure.
it sure would be cool. And I agree. I absolutely love the area. So I lived in Corona Del Mar when I was single, and then when we got married, we moved to Newport Beach. But beautiful, wonderful. I enjoyed my time. The cost of living, we had a 700 square foot apartment, and it cost more than our mortgage for a new home here. So
Yeah.
that's a big part of it.
Sure.
My wife also absolutely loves horses, and we have some land here, and we don't have horses because I told her she can't have them until we're done with babies. But that was another reason to be back here.
Gotcha.
So anyway, that's one reason. Among being around family too. Also.
Totally. Guys, this podcast is brought to you by Duration Molding and Millwork. If you guys are going to JLC this year, make sure you hit Duration Molding and Millwork's booth. That's going to be booth number 213, right next to the double Westlake Royal Building Products booth. They got a huge space on the show floor this year. JLC was earlier in the fall, but now it's coming up in March. March 25th to be exact. Is that right?
That's what I was
24th, 25th, and 26th. And Tyler and I are actually going to be there on the 25th. We're trying to put together a little meet and greet, maybe a little happy hour or something. I'm promoting that even though we have no plans at this point. However, we will be there Friday, but make sure you check out the Duration Molding Millwork booth. Check them out on durationmillwork.com.
Yeah, 25th and 26th.
And 24th, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Starts,
yeah.
Maybe?
I potentially. Let's find that out for sure. I know the message from Keith specifically was the 25th and 26th. But I'm not.
24th through the 26th is the show, but the exhibit hall is the 25th, 26th.
Yeah.
I forgot they do that day before with some of the conference items.
So for the public, most likely 25th, 26th.
Yeah, we'll see you guys on Friday and Saturday. Well, we'll see you guys on Friday, but it's open Saturday as well. This podcast is also brought to you by Reno Run. First and foremost, you guys want us to pay your delivery fee? Head over to podcast.renorun.com/The Modern Craftsman. They're passionate about providing values for the contractors. 3 easy steps: select what you need, tell us where you want it, and when you want it. Hop on their app. You can get any building material delivered in hours rather than days or weeks. That's their specialty.
I was just maybe it was on their stories I saw that it was like coffee, people getting their deliveries, just serving coffee, taking pictures of it. That's what's up.
Yeah, they constantly repost. But they just launched in Washington, D.C. They're also in a bunch of other locations in the U.S. as well as Canada. If you want to learn more about it, renorun.ca. That's their main website, building materials exactly when you need them. But you can order this, like I said, you can order the stuff in minutes and get same day delivery. Check them out on their website. This podcast is also brought to you by Rockwool. So Rockwool, high performance, fire resistant, soundproofing, stone wool insulation for interior and exterior walls, not only helping you achieve local codes and building standards, but getting ahead of future codes. obviously we're using rock wool on our Rhode Island passive home build. It's a product that we're using constantly. Tyler, I think you use it a lot for, a lot of your interior, especially for sound insulation. Is that right?
Yep, fire blocking.
Fire
That's
blocking.
what.
That's what we talked about last week.
Yeah, I think that for them, obviously there's a ton of uses for that. Um, it'd be interesting even to get someone on kind of to maybe explain the uses for that for more common residential construction, kind of the details for as a replacement for standard insulation.
Mhm.
I think that'd be interesting to hear, because I think that most people who hear of rock wool just think of fire blocking, or soundproofing, and not necessarily the insulative properties to it.
Yeah, I mean, we've had questions on how we're using it on the exterior and below grade, and if you are a builder or a professional and you want to learn more about it, but also be part of that community, rockwool.com/our class. It's a brand new community. Jesus
But you
Christ!
had the hiccups now.
No, I just coughed. It's a brand new community for those who take great pride in their craft and really believe in building a better product.
Yeah, it's nice too, because it's not, they did rebrand a while back, switched
Used to
names.
be Roxwool. Roxol.
Roxol, yeah.
Mm,
But they've been around for a while now. So
yeah.
it's not, I feel like Rockwool has been around other names and has kind of stuck around, even as like spray foam kind of has gone and then started moving back away. They're still there. So it's definitely a proven product.
So coming back, you do this spec home. You're living in your parents' basement.
Mhm.
What is that? With the little residential knowledge you have, what is that process like? Like, how did that first spec home do? How do
So
you feel like?
it went really well. I live next door to it, actually.
Yeah.
I built my
So
own
you were
home after
managing it,
that.
or were you actually physically building it?
Little, a little bit of both. I did the finished carpentry on it. I
Yeah.
do miscellaneous framing, stuff like that. But no, I subbed out the majority of it. I didn't have any employees, so I do a little bit. I mean, I'm cleaning. I am installing the windows, stuff like that. So I self-performed a little bit. But the people that we sold it to, they're my current neighbors. So awesome. The price worked for me, and honestly, I think it was a pretty good deal for them. But it helped us. We sold it about halfway through, and so they started making some changes. We weren't going to finish the basement, and then they wanted to finish the basement. But ultimately, it was a springboard, and they were good clients. Absolutely, I had a lot to learn. They got a very nice house. My subs were qualified, but it's I learned a lot. I remember I didn't even have my vocabulary for construction down. I think I remember I asked my lumber salesman for the interior lumber package, and he's like, "What are you talking about?" And I meant finished package for like the base and case and all that stuff. And I always tease my people about calling things by their correct name, because it gives credibility.
Sure.
If you're calling something a post or a beam, you know what I mean? And that was one that stuck with me. I just sounded like an absolute idiot. But the finished lumber
couple
package,
1.5 by 3.5s, and
yeah.
1.5 by 7.25.
So there were some learning things, but I mean, also I was naive. My foundation contractor, we didn't have a name or clout or anything. So although the contractors weren't as busy as they are now, but I had a foundation guy that just ghosted me. I had the hole. We had his bid. It was all accepted. I actually had 2 holes, because when I was doing this one, I was awarded the neighbor's house. I had 2 holes ready, and he just ghosted me. 3 weeks later, I've got a hole there, and I'm desperate, and I'm calling people. And this one guy, who I won't mention, he's probably in jail now or dead, but it's like, "Dude, I can be there tomorrow with forms, but you got to give me the framing too." And I was like, and he was a very good salesman, very good. He swindled a lot of people. Anyway, I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it. I got holes. Let's do it." So we did it, did the foundations. They were fine. The framing was some challenges, but we got through it. Then I get both houses get liened. I was very good with my paperwork. I had lien releases from him, but not from the concrete companies. So maybe I wasn't that good. But this is the first and only time I've ever had a house liened. He didn't pay his concrete bills. So I got a payment plan to pay the concrete company, I think $25,000. And for a brand new company, I can't even afford my own place. That was a lot of money. So that was an expensive lesson. But anyway, the concrete company was really cool. They knew it wasn't my fault. And they're like, well, yeah, I wish someone would have told you that guy's a crook. We've stopped selling to him. I say he's dead. I think he went out to the oil fields to help working. And if you pull that crap out there, it's probably not going to work out. But anyhow, no, there was, a lot of things learned there. And it was a good start. Another challenging thing I've noticed, because a couple of people some younger guys have left my company to go start their own thing, and I don't blame them at all. It's what I did. But one thing I've noticed that I totally didn't think about, because I started with the spec home, is you have to be approved by the banks, right? So we have no problem getting approved by banks now. I mean, they want to see our taxes and our profit and loss statements, all that. That's all fine. And I'm glad they do that to make sure we're financially stable. But one guy that left us, he was awarded a couple houses, and the banks are like, no way, who's this guy? So it was a cool way to start with a speculative house. Obviously it's speculative, so I could have crashed and burned. But maybe I could have lived in it. I don't know. But I don't do a lot of spec houses. I've only done a couple, and they've all gone well. But I'm a little too cautious for all of that.
Yeah. So how long ago was this when you started?
I think it was 2013. 2013.
So you're 9 years.
Yeah. So I think it was, and those first 3 years, I only did 2 or 3 houses a year.
Mm-hmm. And what are you doing now?
Double digits. I mean, last podcast I was on, I got in trouble for how many employees I mentioned we had, because they thought I was inflating it. But I was counting my team. They're like, we don't have 20, 25. I'm like, well, count the cabinet shop. We've got our accountant people you don't talk to, or marketing people. Anyway, so I think we are somewhere around 20 employees. But in the queue, we have about 35 homes. But those are pre-construction homes too, stuff that's under contract.
That's great.
Hot and heavy, it's 10 to 15. But I have 15 really good managers, project managers. I think our staff is just absolutely the best, incredible. One of our guys mentioned, because people are so different with their talents, right? And I don't want to force them to be like me, because I've got my own things of how I'm productive and everything, but I want to get the best out of what they have, and then they can work on the things that they're not so great on. I think a spot I could do better is, I think I have all the right people on the bus, but they're not all in the right seats.
Yeah.
But they're so good. I think when I was with Brad, I'm not going to do that on this one, but I think I started crying when I was talking about them last time, because they're just I don't expect them to treat it like their company. I'm going to work pretty much every weekend, every day. It's my company. I'm not asking for sympathy. I chose that. But there's people that see the future, and I think I know they'll be rewarded for that, where they're they understand what is good for the company is good for them, as opposed to just the paycheck. And you know what? I don't mind people that are just here for a paycheck. We're doing this to make a living and all that stuff. Right. But I do see that the people that are really die hard for the team, I notice that, and I think they'll go farther. And I don't want to do this forever. I want to build forever, but I don't want to do the hours I'm doing forever. So, I have a bit of a succession plan, and those are the type of people that I see running the company in, I don't know how many years, but that's what I want to do. Someone had asked me what I would do if I didn't need to work or whatever. And I was like, I'd probably build 2 houses myself, because I really do. I love construction. The challenge is just, if we didn't have to deal with money and schedules, this would be the best job in the world.
Sure.
But unfortunately, money's a huge deal. And that is tied to timing and expectations and all that stuff. And they pay us a lot of money. And I totally understand that.
I think it's interesting that, what you just you said, if you didn't have to do this because of money, I'd probably only build 2 homes and do them myself. When when you break that down, like if you did 2 homes on your own, you didn't have the team, you realistically would be financially stable.
That's true. So as far as, and
I'm not saying that you're wrong by any means. I guess what I'm getting at here is that, the conversation all comes up a lot about scaling a business and growing a business and growing a team. And I know what you're saying is not, alluding to the fact that you wish you didn't grow a team. I know that, but it is interesting that a lot of times scale comes out of, you're almost not even planning for it. All of a sudden you're 20 people, you have 35 homes under some sort of agreement, whether it's under construction or pre-construction. And it's like, man, how did I get here? And it's, and it's those moments where it's like, you almost have to stop and question, like, all right, is the stress that is, induced because of 35 homes worth it? Working 7 days a week, yeah, I don't mind doing it now, but like, what does that look like for my succession plan? Where it's like, when someone asks me like, oh, what would I do if it wasn't about money, and you build 2 homes? It's like, but Tyler could build 2 homes and make a decent living and be totally fine. But there's other things that trigger these wants for growth. And I think about that for me as well, where it's like, yeah, I could just go back and just work on my own and build 1 or 2 homes at a time and do a damn good job at it. But that's not my goal. Like, I want to build a bigger business. I want a big team. And it's like, yeah, there's massive amount of headaches and stress that come with that. But I'm only focused on those headaches and the stress for such a short amount of time. And then my mind goes right to like, what does 10 years look like for me? What does 15, 20 years look like for me? And when, you do have people in place, that could potentially take over the business. And I want to go back to that. Like you say, you have really great people, they're on the bus, but they might not be on the right seat. But what, before we talk about like what position they're in or like where you wish you could shuffle people around, because that is a real thing. I've done it in my company as well, where it's like we've moved people around in the quote unquote hierarchy because they're better suited in a different position. And I forget who it was. I think it was Kevin Craddock that said, it's weird that in this industry we take really good carpenters and then we promote them, using air quotes, to a site super, and then they might not be a good site super. But like that's the natural progression. And it's like, but what if you left them in the carpenter role and they just thrive there, where like they just became better and better and better? It's like you're instead taking them out of an environment that they're really good at and throwing them into an environment that they might suck at.
Right.
And it's like, and going back to like the same bus or the right bus but the wrong seat. I guess my question there is like, all right, so these people that are on your team over the last 9 years, you've built this team, what was that like? What was the focus there? Were you focused on bringing people in that could manage projects, or were you focused on bringing people in that, had no experience in training them, like being able to run the homes that you're building with? If you're 15 under construction and you have 15 managers, that means each one of them is looking at one job, which is a great model to have, because it's their baby from day 1 to day 700 or whatever it might be. But they all have different, I assume they all have different strengths and backgrounds.
I think we're all set for questions on the podcast.
I think. Well, I think so. I have a lot to unpack there. So I think.
It was
A lot.
the longest run-on sentence I've ever.
No,
I've
it's
ever
all
gotten.
fantastic. So let me go back a little bit because I think some of the answers will explain themselves. So going back to the just me and growing my team, I resisted growth for several years, and some of that is from being afraid. I struggle with courage, like as far as like I hate giving bad news, and that is a huge part of this business. You know, it just is, and I've struggled with budgets, you know, as far as like trying to tell people what they want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
My little girl, can you hear her?
Barely.
Sorry. Anyhow, so as far as like, hold on 1 second.
I thought it was a cat at first. So
A cat?
My cat was making these like screaming noises the other night because something was out on the porch, and it sounded very similar to that.
Amazing.
Damn kids. I think all of mine are at like an after-school program right now.
After school?
Yeah, they do some like I don't know, art and stuff that they get picked to do.
Oh yeah.
All right, I just threw in the panic room. We're fine. Getting back to that, I resisted growth a lot because, one, I didn't ever want to have fire people. I was around during the last recession. Well, not fire, just let go.
Mm-hmm.
And I had some people around me that were not employees, but almost partners as far as subcontractors I relied a lot on. And they wanted to stay very small. And that's their prerogative. And that kind of, I kind of was on board with that too, because I don't want to let people go, all that stuff. And then I just had so many opportunities that I was like, I'm just going to take them because I think I run a good company and will run a good company. And if we have to let people go because of construction and a recession, I think they would have been let go by someone else before us. You know what I mean? I can't, if I have to let people go, I'm assuming companies that are not as good as us will have already let people go.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just kind of like, well, I need to go for it. I can't be afraid of something that hasn't happened.
Right.
Doesn't mean I can't have contingencies and all that stuff. So we started just kind of accepting these things. And I feel like I've owned like 3 or 4 different companies by the name of Killowen. Like it was just me, and then it was like 2 guys. And then over these past couple of years, we've really ramped up the amount of projects and people. And I've been super nervous about scaling properly. I think we have. I've seen some other companies as things got busy that they went a little faster than me, and they have bad reputations now because they couldn't handle it. Like their homes, they got in lawsuits, they didn't hire the right people, they just have really just inexperienced people running the jobs, and I just can't have that. I can't have that on our homes. I can't have our name associated with stuff like that. So I'm also ambitious and prideful. I have goals. I don't know if I need to share all of them on here, but they're not like conquer the world, but they're to be better than some other people. Sure. I know there's so many different ways to be motivated, and I'm not recommending this, but like I have a list that I call the chip list, and it's written down, and it's people I don't wish ill on these people, but they're people who haven't believed in me, and I want to prove I'm wrong. And sometimes I read that list.
Let's read it today. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know. That'd be great.
Right. In the number 10 spot.
No, I looked at it actually on Monday, and it's 14 deep.
14 people.
But nobody's counting.
Some of those are groups of people too. So anyway.
Well, let's unpack that a little bit. What,
okay.
Those people that are on that list, the chip list, you say that they didn't necessarily believe in you. Are these people in Like, are these family, or are these other companies saying, Tyler, you can never compete against me, or I'm going to be
Um,
better than you, or like
it's a
what?
mix. It's a
But
mix. It's
why
people
did they
that
make the list? Like, what really motivated you to
I
put a list
remember
together?
that feeling. I remember that feeling of not being good enough. Right.
When?
I have when I've been rejected, pretty much. So, or if someone's done something wrong to me, and I think I feel like I've been wronged. I think the best,
Like the guy that didn't pay his concrete, like
yeah,
like
or
someone
like
like yeah.
something like that. He's actually not even on the list. I forgot about him. Occasionally,
He's in-
people come off the list, by the way, and when I get over it, but I would say the feeling of rejection to me is motivating to
Yeah.
be like, well, you were wrong about me. Look what I can do. Stuff like that. I mean, I honestly don't want to get too specific because I don't want anyone to guess who they are.
No, I understand.
But there are some builders on there that I lost work to, and part of it is because of what they told the clients, and the clients told me. We haven't done this recently, but about 3 years ago, I had someone reach out to people who had told us no. I mean, not because like, or we just didn't get the job.
Yeah,
I don't bid out a lot of jobs now. We usually are in the process very early because they come to us, right? But there's been jobs where I've been against other contractors in the past and I didn't get them. And I think it was a great idea. And it was a bit of a survey like, hey, why didn't you pick Killowen? Why not? I want to know the answer, even if it hurt my feelings, right? And some of them are like, well, we should have. It didn't go well. And so that made me feel good. Others were like, well, this other builder just told us you were really small time and you couldn't handle 2 projects at once. And I know who that builder is, and I disagree. I don't think they do a good job. But anyway, that's an example, right?
Yeah.
So
who is this person that reached out? Did you hire a firm to like basically survey?
Yeah, so I had a consultant on retainer to do stuff like that for me.
I think that's super interesting. And I think about a few years ago, I got a phone call, and it was for a designer we worked for, and they were like, "Hey, Nick, I know you've worked with X designer. Would you be willing to, talk to me for about 15 minutes? We can schedule this at another time." I said, "No, I'm good. I got a little time. What's going on?" Like, well, they hired us to do some, digging into like really how people feel about them. And I was like, all right, you got my attention. Like let's talk about it. And they went through it, and come to find out the firm actually does it for really large corporations. But they had developed a relationship with this smaller designer, and they did exactly that. They wanted to know, like, they wanted to know what was good, but they more wanted to know, like, when you worked with them, what was the biggest thing that you struggled with? And really getting that real feedback. And it's like, I think about, you probably do something similar where it's like maybe you have a debrief at the end of the job and you get that from the client. But having that outside source, I found myself being more honest.
Was it anonymous?
Yeah.
Like, were you anonymous at that point,
It
Nick?
was.
Yeah, because I feel like that would help too. Because if
you're
afraid it's going to get back to them,
Yeah, it was like they're going to survey like 50 people. You're like, everything that you tell us will be completely anonymous. And I was like, okay. And when I remember finishing like the interview, and they were like, so just so you know, like, what you've said about this and that and this is something that everyone has said, or 50% of the people had said. And so I commend you for considering that, because I find myself asking when someone lets us know it's a no, I'll ask in the moment. But now, like, you saying that makes me think about all of these other projects that were no's, and I never did follow up with them. We had a really big project. Exactly. Sorry to cut you off, Tyler. But we've talked about it on the podcast here. It was like a $10 million project, and the client said, loved everything about us, but basically came down to the fact that we had never built a $10 million project before, and they and they valued who we were, but they just were like, we wanted to work with someone that's already done that. And I appreciated knowing that. I appreciated knowing, like, all right, it wasn't about our performance or our proposal or anything. You liked everything about it. You wanted to work with someone that had experience. Totally respect that. And,
Mhm.
and when I get that, that's what motivates me. Obviously it motivates me to, have a more honest conversation up front where it's like, yeah, maybe have that conversation. Like, listen, we've never built something like this, but here's why we can.
Right.
And get ahead of it rather than spending months, in pre-construction or pricing to only find out that they're going to make the decision based on the fact that, we've never done it before.
Right. Well, and I think another thing just to add to another huge benefit of that, and I probably need to go back and look and see if there's anyone else we need to reach out, is if they didn't pick us just because of cost, I'd be curious what their actual cost came out to be.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure, I don't think there's a solution for this in our industry, probably ever, when we're just talking price per square foot and we say we're $500 a foot. And then someone's like, oh, well, my cousin said his guy can do this for $375, right? There's no real value for me to hear a year later, I told you so.
Right.
I was right. It doesn't help the client and it doesn't help me.
Right.
It only helps the guy that kind of, bait and switch, right? That got it. But it does, if I asked that, with those other clients that we didn't get, if it came out closer to where my price was, that at least lets me tell clients who are worried about that up front, being like, hey, here's a track record of us being right with costs when you're hearing those low costs. Because managing expectations with budgets and communication and what the clients are actually getting for these beautiful custom homes will really determine how the relationship from the start. We have gotten away. We're currently working on, because we're a bigger company, we have to have more policies in place and systems in place instead of everyone just being out there being their own mini builder, my project managers. So we're working on all that stuff. We've gotten away with some of our, trying to think of a better word than inefficiencies, but just spots where we've maybe dropped the ball or whatever. We've gotten away with it because our clients, my people are so great because my clients love them. They're honest. They won't ever get in trouble because they lied. We can get chewed out if we made a mistake. That's fine. But I think most people appreciate that when you admit you made a mistake. We've gotten away with some of that. Some, I think, that are my fault with not having everything running as a well-oiled machine because my people are so good. And I think that does come from our culture, right? So I'm not saying I've done everything terribly, but the the clients could be, you know how it is. Every client has their own thing. They could have a hard time making decisions, or they're just don't understand the costs or whatever. But ultimately, any client could be really hard if you don't do a good job for them.
Right.
We have some clients right now that I could see would be very hard if my team wasn't kicking butt. You know what I mean? So I love that we have repeat clients. I love that we get along with our clients. It's all good. And what you mentioned earlier about just kind of a sit down with the clients to ask where we did good, where we did bad. I used to do that more, and it's a goal of mine to kind of get more consistent with that. We still always have contact with them, so maybe that's why I feel like it's not incredibly necessary to do it formally. But one of my very first jobs, Levi, one of my longest tenured employees, used to be my tile guy. And I was asking the clients, hey, who didn't you like? Who did you like? Like, I need some feedback because I let my homeowners, work and talk with the subs, all that stuff. And they're like, man, we love Levi. He's so great. What a good guy. They weren't even talking about his tile work, which is great. And Levi now is a project manager with us. And he was pretty much my first hire. So lots of good can come with all the things we just talked about kind of the kind of recap of the job. Even if it's stuff you don't want to hear, you got to improve.
What qualities do you think that he possessed that kind of made your customers feel as though he was a, somebody that they could kind of go to when they needed it, or that he made like such a good impression on them?
Thoughtfulness, questions, hard work, doing what he said he was going to do, and intangibles that you can't explain. You just feel good around that guy. He's a good person,
Yeah, I think so much of it comes down to like trust. Somebody hires you because they trust you and your business, and then you bring a subcontractor in, and they're like, maybe they don't feel as though they can trust this person, or they don't really mesh with this person. It's so tough. But I know even Nick, that's how Mike Telich ended up going off on his own, because
Right.
he was their finish carpenter, and he would come onto the job, and everyone would be like, man, this is such a great experience with you here. We wish that you could build our houses. And I guess eventually he heard that enough and was like, all right, I'm just going to start building my houses on my own. But it was the same thing. He started as a sub, and was just that sub that people could trust, could go to, would actually had their best interest in mind, not just getting paid and getting out of there. And it led to him building some really nice homes now.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I don't think it, a lot of time, I don't know, it's also different with, you said that you allow your customers to talk to subs, and I think that's a fine line as well. Like, some people are adamantly against dealing with subs, come to me. Is there a reason why you let your customers have that relationship?
Well, so we welcome clients on site. You're right. It depends on the client, and there's a fine line there. I insist, if there's anything they ask the subs, I am copied on any and all correspondence.
Yeah.
Because they can't. I mean, it's in our contract. You can't give directions to the subs. But I have there's some subs that are great, just like this carpenter you just mentioned. I might not be able to make a meeting to talk about a chair rail detail, but I know that sub is going to knock it out of the park, and they're going to love him, and they're all going to feel great about it. But I just need to be updated on it, right?
Yeah.
Because it might have cost implications. There's absolutely some subs that I won't let near a client.
Those are the exterior guys.
Yeah, I mean, there's just some, and yeah, we definitely, if we have a coordination meeting, one of our managers is going to be there. But if they're just going through the house and they're like maybe bringing donuts for the guys, I encourage that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They can't make decisions without us. But there are some subs where like my flooring guy, Ryan with Lemco, like, he can talk warranty with them. He can tell them all the same things I would tell them about hardwood versus engineered and humidity and all that stuff. And then know he's on it, and he's super honest, and he's not gonna tell them anything incorrect. So the designer may be at that meeting, but I don't really go to the flooring selection meetings anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And our project managers can, but
Nick, you subbed early on. I subbed early on, like when I first started. And that's one of the reasons why I don't want to sub anymore. Like it takes a special person to be a good subcontractor. And I think, I don't know, a lot of times I would be on a job subbing, and customers like immediately know if they can trust you, or if like they're not getting somewhere with the builder, there's like a sub that they can connect with. And I ended up basically, like, they were smaller projects, but I would end up almost managing these projects because the builder would not be there, and then the customers confiding in me, and then I'm like, wait, this whole job's on me now, but I'm just getting paid as a sub. Where I finally, it got to a point where it was like, I just can't be a subcontractor anymore, because like I'm here and I want to do my best work, and like I don't feel as though I'm working under this GC's umbrella. Like, I feel like it's my name on the truck, so I want to do my best work. And then like those customers just latch onto you.
Yeah, I think I've actually heard that quite a bit from designers, because we insist on an interior designer being involved in the project, and I have many thoughts about designers. I am very high on them, and having the right ones on the jobs.
Yeah.
Why do you insist?
I enjoy design. I like it. Well, and it depends on the packet you're getting from your architects. I don't know,
Sure.
but just speaking for what we get, they typically don't do interior elevations, stuff like that. Steve does, right? But I'm doing a project with him and Shay McGee for Shay's own project, and they will kind of collaborate on interiors, right? But for example, I really like design. And if I was just building 1 or 2 houses, I have no problem jumping on SketchUp and drawing a built-in cabinet next to the fireplace and all that and getting it approved. But ultimately, that's not my job. And my team, that might not be their strong suit, right? To design for them. So, and we don't have that in our fee. So if we're spending half of our time designing a tile layout for them or whatever, we definitely collaborate with the designers. But having a designer that will give us a design packet with drawings, a specification list, where we're sourcing the lighting, all that stuff is so important to me. And when I don't get it, the job just drags.
Yeah, I mean, you start like footing the bill for all of that design work. If you give a crap and like you want it to look good, you're going to sit there and do mock-ups and draw stuff on the wall to get the customer's approval. And it's like, you feel badly charging for it. I've gotten burnt doing that before. And then it's like, well, if I were to bring in a designer, you'd be paying them to do renderings. You'd be paying them to do mock-ups. Like any question that you have about this, I'd be not necessarily off the hook, but I don't have to feel badly charging for that. And it's like a designer would charge you for this. Why wouldn't we? It's my time. I can't do something else right then.
Right. And we work with fantastic designers. And so the drawing on the wall and all that stuff, it still happens, but it's a collaborative effort, right? They come to us with this and we're like, well, we might have to modify it this way because the crown's not going to work that way or whatever. They don't understand as well as we do how to put things together. So that still happens, but like the early in my career, I had designers, and I don't know how it is with you guys, but if you're in Utah and you have the internet, allegedly you're a designer. But they would send a Pinterest picture, right? We love this, Tyler, make this happen. I'm like, well, there are 100 things in this picture I could ask you a question about. What do you love about it? And that just really became cumbersome and overwhelming to a point. Like, well, this isn't the same size of wall we have. That's a wood burner. That's a gas. You can't do this type of mantle right on top of that. Just a lot of stuff that we just had to figure out from some obscure picture. That was my experience with designers for the first, and I can understand why there's somewhat of a confrontational relationship between designers and builders. When I first started, I thought they just hated each other. But then we started with good designers. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Thank you. Yes, yes, yes. And like the projects went quicker, right? So I'm a huge advocate of them. And I think they get a bad rep as far as, I can pick out paint colors. I know what colors I like. I'm like, no, it's not that. They're worth, if you have a good one, I think they're worth every penny. Another challenge we have is a homeowner has a design background, which they might, but I still need someone locally to help me figure out stuff and do drawings, right? So I don't care if it's collaborative, but that homeowner designer needs to talk with one of our designers, right?
I mean, typically too, if you have a relationship with a designer, it's the same thing as a relationship with a sub, where like my management fees and working this project are based on the experience with my subcontractors and my designers, that I understand how they work. I can properly budget the amount of effort and time that's going to take. Now you bring somebody else in that you've never worked with, and it's like, I don't know how this whole process is going to go.
Sure.
You're hiring me for my systems, my processes, my product, and now you're throwing this massive curveball in that I don't know how to work. Maybe you work great with them, but I don't know going into this how that's going to go.
Sure.
It's just a risk.
And I'm always open to talent. I won't say no to a new person, but like I want to feel it out and make sure we're getting what we're hoping for. I don't think it is hard to find someone with good taste. I mean, we all like our own taste, right? Like there's some houses I build, I just don't like. They're not my style. So I don't think it's hard for a client to find someone that can catch their vision, but someone that is professional and organized and can be an asset to the construction team. That's the kind of designer I want. Lots of times they're cheerleaders, you know, to help the clients get through these hard days. That's a skill. It is.
Mm-hmm.
But I would much rather have someone who has the personality of a paper bag, but does their job well. And again, we work with a lot of really good ones. And I'm really happy because, and selfishly, they make my job easier. You know, I was walking through a house that we just finished yesterday. We didn't just finish it yesterday. I was walking through it yesterday, finished it recently. And, it was all, had the decor in it, had the art and, you know, the throw pillows, all that stuff. I was like, wow, you're making us look good. And this is great. I'm just super proud of how it turned out and stuff. And it's a designer that we work with all the time. And we will continue to. It's just, I can't say enough how much I appreciate good designers.
I think people don't understand the difference between a designer and a decorator as well.
Exactly.
Like they kind of lump them into the same thing. And I think that, you know, they're completely set. Like, I think that their jobs can overlap, but like somebody coming in at the end of the job or staging things or styling things, a lot of times they can be the interior designer. But I think, you know, the interior design comes more down to kind of the construction of things and stylistically how that's going to work and space layout, and kind of getting a lot of the details approved and getting them into the hands of the customer. So as contractors, we're not being held up, or, you know, we're getting approvals done for things that otherwise we'd be having to spend our time sorting out in the field and then waiting for approvals.
Right.
I've never heard anyone who has a good designer not justify their worth. Like, if you've had a bad experience, like, oh, you don't need a designer, or, you know, or a lot of times they end up, you know, sometimes they, like, when details matter, they can slow the process down on a smaller job. But I know, Nick, you've even said this before, like, at the end of the day, it winds up being worth it. And it's like, let's sort this out and let's figure this out. And then it's going to make such a huge impact. So I think there's a lot of builders out there that like see that and they're like, well, we don't really care about that detail. Like, it's more headache for us. You don't need to bring one in. But for guys and girls who are looking to put their best work out there, and really be challenged and have like creative, be able to do jobs that are very creative and kind of, fulfill that need that we are as builders. Like, I think that a good designer is worth their weight in gold.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that, you know, some of our, we've built some great projects, but the lack of designer has led to all of the challenges that we had to clean up after the fact. Or it's like, hey, that really came well, you know, together well, but it was overly complex because it was design built in place. Where it's like, you know, I was on a job today and I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, like if we had just sat down and worked on this with a designer, we would have realized that this wouldn't have been the right way to go about it. Or this wouldn't have ended up here. We would have moved it because it would have been coordinated. You know, I'm a total advocate for it. Tyler, you're talking a lot about how you have great people, you have great projects, you're working with great designers. What are you struggling with the most right now?
I think it's kind of what I alluded to with this whole bus metaphor. I think with either it's luck or I just have something that a talent I have is attracting people with talent. I wasn't intentional, but I have great people, right? So I think where I kind of fall down a little bit is operations. I can build a fantastic house. And I've been around and I feel like I have a good eye for when something's just off, you know, or something like that. And I have definitely have good rapport with our clients and those things are my strong suits. And just hardworking and task oriented, right? But as far as taking our people and not like squeezing the juice out of them, but like put them in spots where they're the most efficient, that's a challenge for me, because people have come on with us and started and kind of expected to be in my hip pocket. And I just kind of run with my days and get stuff done. And I can be short on my text responses and my calls. And I tell them, please don't take it personally. I love all of you, but I need to be better at small talk, I guess. I save that for my homeowners. But I think the challenge I've had is like, we're working on job descriptions, because I've been so loose with what everyone's tasks on their jobs are, because I wanted to enforce what they're good at. Like I have some of my managers put their bags on most of the day, and they're laying out lighting with the electrician and all that. And some of these jobs really need that. They need some hand holding right there. Sure. And it's great. But then others are just straight up, I'm delegating this, and this, and this. I'm not getting dirty, but like, I need that too. You know what I mean? So I struggle with having my employees keep their individuality without going corporate and being like, you have to do it this way.
Sure.
So we're working on that. And I think that's been a little bit of frustration with my employees with me, and they've been super patient with me. I never worked for anyone like me. So like, I'm doing the best I can. And I love that builders like you and Brad and some others are open to giving me advice and stuff like that. But I think there's been some frustration with my team with not having that firm job description for like our junior project managers and our project managers and our senior project managers. What's the distinction and what's my career path with Killowen? Because I think they see the future of the company being very bright, but I totally understand maybe a little bit of nervousness and anxiety of like how they move up. Does that make sense?
I think
so.
It's also, we discussed this last week on the podcast, where everything that we do and every job that we do is so different. It's really hard to put these processes, systems, labels in place where, for this job, these are your job tasks. And then for the next job, they're wildly different. And I think so much of even employees may even more so be what jobs they're getting placed on than kind of what their duties are, where it's like that, fitting the right manager to the right project may bring out their best more so than anything else in what we do.
I agree. That's what I was saying. Just like, do I have them all in the right spot?
Yeah.
I think another thing that is a challenge for me is, I had no idea, and this is not exclusive to our industry, but just the psychology involved with having a lot of members of your team.
Well, you said it earlier. It's like you start becoming corporate. You start having to write processes. You start writing like, SOPs. You get into the human resource thing where it's like, like the actual PTO policy, what tools am I allowed to buy on company dime, and what do I have to bring to the company? It's like, the more people you add, the more questions that come up. And that's something that I've experienced where it's like, man, like, it's like, do we have a handbook? I'm like, yeah, give me a week and I'll get a handbook put together.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I've been working on my handbook for like a year.
Yeah. I've had it for mine for like 3 years. I ripped it off the internet and I adapted it. And every year I make these micro changes. And finally I just sent it to our lawyer last week. And I said, hey man, like, I don't even know if this thing's legal. Like, can you go through this and make sure I'm communicating this stuff right? But all the way to like job description, it's so. There was one point when we first started growing that I was like, you know what? No one's going to have a job title. Like, we're just going to come and build cool shit. And that sounded so cool to me. And
it doesn't work.
And I was like, and you know what? No vacation policy. It's freedom. Take whatever you want. Like, you do what you're like. You just do whatever you think makes sense. And no one was taking vacation. No one was like really understanding what their job was. And they were like, you know what? I'd kind of rather you just tell me I have 2 weeks and then I'll take the 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, I don't want that freedom. And then it's like, and exactly what you said, it's, what is my responsibility? And, am I in charge of them, or are we equal? Or like, when does my job stop and theirs start? And furthermore, you hit a great point. It's like the career path, where it's like, all right, well, I'm an assistant PM. Like, how do I know when I become a PM? Or, hey, I'm a carpenter. What makes me a lead? Like, what are the things I need to do in order to achieve the lead title? And, and give the path. And it's like, that's an enormous amount of work, because you write it up once, and it's like, you write that job description based on this guy, like you're this guy over on this job, and then you reread it and you apply it to the guy that's doing on the other job that's laying out with his bags on. It's like, man, he can't do this. Like, this isn't, he's not really that great at uploading photos to Build a Trend every week for the client. Like, I actually have the assistant doing that. And it's, it's so important to be all encompassing, but also have like fluidity in it. So it's not so rigid.
Right.
Tyler, are you, when you say managing, or like the psychology of it, are you kind of alluding more so to how to deal with everyone independently and personality types as well?
Yeah. So, I really, getting back to, I didn't fully explain why I embrace growth. I do take pride in that I am providing careers and income for people. I love that. I love that families hopefully are doing well because of something I created. That sounds prideful and selfish, but I think it's cool to provide jobs, especially in a company that I'm hoping they enjoy working in, and it's good and it's fun work and all that exciting, challenging work. So I want them all to be happy. Unfortunately, I don't have a blank check. I can't pay them all $1 million a year, right? But I want them to be happy and feel heard and have a good work culture. I had someone who was talking about leaving, and I had lunch with him, and he's just like, just so you know, it's 100% about money. And I said, well, I think that's the wrong choice, but that's up to you. I'm not saying money is not important, but you obviously have never had a job you hated. Because I do think company culture is important. That being said, like, I want to bonus properly. Industry standard is kind of all over the place. I wish, and this is where my people have been patient with me, I do bonus at the end of the year, but it's kind of been like Tyler thinking, yeah, I think 15 grand's a good amount for this year, without a calculation. Because I think some of the performance-based calculations for construction are incredibly unfair. Because scheduling, you could kick butt. You can do everything you were supposed to do. Your painter doesn't show up. You know what I mean? And then most people who have sat in front of me with the interview, and they're like, yeah, I had a scheduled base incentive bonus. I never got it. You know what I mean? And they were frustrated about it, right? So we've maybe got around that a little bit with our new bonus structure. I also reserve the right to just give someone money if I think they did a great job with something.
What is the structure now? Because I've asked that question,
well,
to so many people.
When's this podcast coming out?
It'll be out in a week.
Okay. So my goal was to have this rolled out by the end of this first quarter. So this is the plan. All my employees who are listening to this, if this changes before it comes out, this is the plan as of today. I have some meetings with our controller and stuff to just kind of run the numbers for it. But our plan right now is, at least for our project managers, I think juniors will be different because they're spread across so many jobs, right? Mm-hmm. But say project manager, let's say he's running 3 jobs, or another project manager who's running 2 jobs, but the 3 jobs are smaller, right? We've decided to give a percentage of the builder fee for that quarter. Doesn't matter how many jobs you're on, but how much builder fee you have managed for that quarter will go into your pocket. I'm hoping that incentivizes people a little bit for schedule, right? So that means the more money you make the company, the more money you're going to make that quarter, right?
Right.
So that's what it's based off right now.
Primarily?
Yes. So, I mean, let's just say we get $100,000, or someone drives $100,000 of builder fee, not over. I mean, I guess we could do an overall construction costs too, but we're just limited to what comes to the company. You will get a percentage of that every quarter based. And if you do 150 next quarter, it'll be more. But some of the challenges why it's not all done yet is I have some project managers that are going to help me with estimating on other jobs that they will never manage. Right. And that is probably above and beyond their job title, but also of worth and extra work. So that's where I'm like, okay, I'm toying around with, if you take this estimate from start to finish and it's complete and it's solid, I review it with you, it's great, I'll bonus you X amount of money. That's just on top of your salary. So that's where I want to get with some of that. We are going to implement that quarterly thing. I guess again, I'm sure it will be tweaked, but that's what we're looking at right now. And
so what if that builder fee starts getting eaten up by builder variances? Like the job goes sideways and you start making concessions like crazy, and that money, that you're bringing in $100,000, but 50 of it goes back into that project to fix a mistake.
Well, if it was their fault, it probably comes out of their bonus.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a little bit of accountability.
Right. This is what you were getting at with the structure is so difficult and oftentimes can be unfair.
Obviously, so if we had $50,000, I'm not going to expect one of my employees to pay $50,000 in a mistake, right? So we have contingencies, but like their bonus will not be very great if they lost us $50,000 because it was something they actually made a mistake on. If it's a concession I'm making to like make the homeowner happy or whatever, that shouldn't have really hurt them or affect them.
Right.
But again, it's tricky, right? So
I mean, I guess the point, Builder 20 group, I asked 20 builders. I'm like, hey, walk me through your bonus structure. I'm trying to remove the emotion out of it, and all 20 of them said, can't do it. It's like there's always going to be an emotional aspect to figuring out what that bonus is in some way or the other, especially when it becomes like, a situation like that where it's like, all right, you're $50,000 loss. It's like, all right, well, I have to figure out, like, is this their fault? And now on top of that, am I bonusing them at all? Or am I bonusing them based on what they did make and deducting, a percentage based on what they lost me? Like, it is so case by case, in efforts to make it fair, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, because that's another thing, and I think our employees are rational and understand things. Like the reason there's more of an upside for being an owner and making more money is you have a lot more liability, right? They're not going to pay that $50,000 mistake, right? I will. So there's that, and then there's I don't know. The reason this was important to me is at least people can kind of plan it out, like they can kind of see, as opposed to just an end of year bonus. And again, I'm learning, like there's different tax rules for bonuses. You get taxed more than you do on regular income. So do we want to do more frequent raises and fewer bonuses to kind of even out? But at the same time, bonuses seemed appealing to me when we have a lot of work like we do, and I can't control the economy. I can just do the best we do. But we have lower work. If we have less work, their salaries staying the same, but their bonuses are less. But if we have less work and they have high salaries, I might have to let someone go. So those are just those kind of daily running a business things that are always on my mind, and I want to be super fair. And another, since we're talking about things I'm having a hard time with, is giving each of them face time.
Yeah.
And I want to go to lunch once a week with somebody, and I haven't for the past few weeks or whatever. There's always something. I found with how many, even as well as we run these jobs, with how many jobs we have every single day, there is a big problem. I'm not saying like an insurmountable problem, but something we got to figure out. So that is, and I think with the size we're at now, I don't see ever getting away from that just because of the nature of the business. Right. So I would love to spend more time on site. I love going out on the job sites. That's why I didn't like my job in law. I was just at my desk all day. So I like the half and half. I like doing the office stuff, but I love going out on sites, talking with them, troubleshooting, all that stuff. But it seems like when I'm out on site, troubleshooting with them, I'm like in a rush to get back to my desk. So that's where we're doing better, and I've made some really good hires, and they're really helping me with some of this front end stuff that I'm trying to get a little less involved with. But I think giving my team, giving my team a little bit more face time, just so they feel like they're heard, and I'm just like not an absentee business owner. Right. Like I like this sounds dumb, but I like you've probably seen the movie Gladiator.
I haven't.
You haven't?
I have not.
Oh gosh, you haven't? Neither of you?
I don't. All I watch are kids' movies, and usually I sleep halfway through them.
It's like 20 years ago.
No, anyway. I didn't even have kids then. I probably watched kids' movies though.
All right, I bet you most of your listeners have seen Gladiator. Anyway, you should watch it. It's a good movie. Anyway, Maximus, he's this Roman general, right? The first 10 minutes of the movie are so sweet. Like it's this battle, whether it's good that the Romans are conquering these people in Germany or not is, up for debate. But they were just about to have a battle. And the night before, he was just walking through the army, and you could tell, I mean, this is speaking to my vanity and my hope and my pride. You could just tell his people were down with Maximus. You know what I mean? They respected him because he was in the trenches with them, and he'd, tap someone on their like breastplate and, give them a nod. You could just tell that they appreciated that he was there with them. So I think leading by example is a huge thing for a company culture. I don't think anyone in our company doesn't think I work hard, but at the same time, I think I need to be with them more, if that makes sense. So I don't know. That's something I've thought about, just like qualities of being a leader. There's so many ways to be a good leader, and so many people respond differently to different types of leadership because, I was really into athletics when I was younger, and I had coaches that would just scream and yell, and I responded really well to that because I wanted to prove them wrong, and I just played harder, But we had other really talented players that would just get yelled at and just sulk. You know what I mean? So I have to adapt to our different personalities. That's where I was getting back to psychology. Some of my people, they just need an attaboy. They really do. And then they're boom, I'm good. Let's keep rolling. And if I don't see them, I can tell they're kind of down. Others are just like, hey, you didn't do a very good job. I'm a little disappointed. And then they're like, come on. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm definitely not a perfect manager or leader, but I'm not a screamer or a yeller, but I can get frustrated and stern. But
that's the hard part about being that, like, you're small enough of a company that people expect that kind of face-to-face interaction, but at the same time, you're large enough that it's really difficult to kind of spread yourself that thin, where you think of larger companies and that boss comes and, there's that like level of separation. There's a delineation between the classes, and like, say it's a massive corporation and the owner of the company walks through and they're like, hey, how you doing? Like, they don't really care how you're doing. And like
Yeah.
you don't feel like you're in a position to be like, well, I really don't like the way that you guys make me do, like there's different levels where
Yeah.
people have to go and speak to different people. And those people who are higher up are so separated from that like the boots on the ground people, how they feel on a day-to-day basis doesn't really matter to them. I know that a ton of them probably say they do and they have things in place, but when it comes down to it, it's just like that they can't be so concerned with people like that's passed off to somebody below them and below them until it's somebody's responsibility that's right next to them every day. But you're in a tough position because you're small enough that you could possibly see once a week have lunch with somebody, but that doesn't mean that it's not difficult to manage that.
Mm-hmm.
If you were further removed from it, like it probably wouldn't weigh on you quite as much.
No, I agree. I mean, I've seen it, and I understand why there's that removal. I understand it because it weighs on me, but that doesn't mean I want to change it. I do want to be a part of the company and a part of their lives, and that's why I insist on still having a relationship with all the homeowners, even though I'm not the one ordering their dumpster to be removed and stuff like that. They text me all the time, and for better or worse, I hear from all of them, and I think it puts more of a burden on me. But I do feel it would be disingenuous to, I'm in all the sales meetings, sell them on our company, on me, my experience, and then sign a contract and they never talk to me again. So I understand how that could be kind of awesome in some ways, but I don't. I want to be involved, and I think I do an okay job. But again, if we're just turned into just a why Tyler is struggling podcast, but I have young children, I have a family, and some days I don't see them at all. Other days I just shut it down. I'm like, I gotta see my kids, and that is not like me to shut it down. And that's my own thing. That's my own challenge, right? So I don't think balance is attainable for me. I don't. I think I'm gonna be running pretty hard on this until it gets to the point where I can release some of it. And I'm wondering about that day because it sounds nice, but I think it's my personality that I would have a hard time with that, as much as I'd love to spend, all day with my kids or whatever. So, yeah, I think I'm revealing a lot of faults on this podcast. Hopefully all my owners
No, I mean, no, I mean, you talked about everything that's going great. I think it's just, it's always nice to balance that. Right. And, understand like the things that you struggle with are typically the things that you're working the most in right now.
Yeah.
And it's like the things that you're focused on improving, and understanding like the last 9 years of Killowen and what has allowed you to go from that first spec to these, monster, what I would call like vacation homes. Like they're beautiful, and to be able to build a team of 15 people that are running them, it's always interesting to hear what you're working on.
Yeah, and it also like it provides insight to people. There's a ton of young men and women who say, I want to start a company and I want this, or they look at what you do and he makes this amount of money and he has these opportunities. And it does give some insight as to what we struggle with on a daily basis. And it's not necessarily that this happened on the job and this is a mistake. You have all of that going on. You have your personal life, your family, and then on top of that, you're trying to manage, personalities within your business and who's getting taken care of and who's getting what they need, on that personal level. And I think that it shares a lot of insight to these people that, our struggles and what we go through, it's not quite as simple as just what's going on the job.
Yeah, absolutely. We get I mean, I'm super flattered. We don't have as great a social presence as you guys. By the way, I got to throw this in here. We have like a couple of my employees are in love with you guys. By the way, I asked them.
Appreciate it.
I asked them if they wanted me to get them some applications because they won't shut up about it. But anyway,
Have them reach out to Nick.
Yeah. So as far as like the social stuff, I didn't really realize any benefit of it until like a few years ago, because I'm like, I only need a small amount of people, but the more you get your work out there, the more people see you, the more opportunities you have, stuff like that. But what is so interesting to me, and our numbers are probably a little more inflated than they should be because we were on that Netflix show and a lot of international people follow us, and that's so cool.
That Netflix show.
Right. Yeah.
Wasn't it one of the number one shows on Netflix?
Oh yeah, no, it's not my show, but Dream Home Makeover, Stu McGee's show. It's yeah, they're so great, and we're thankful to be on it.
You guys are filming season 2, right? And
yeah.
Do we get to see Sid's half pipe in the basement? That's all I want to see.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. Whoa.
Right. That's all. I've been watching that. That's all I want to see is the half pipe.
Do you hear music?
No. Did you just start playing music in your ear?
Not me.
What if it's hooked up to my phone anyway? It was En Vogue, if you're wondering.
Oh, I was wondering if it was the U2 album.
On shuffle. But anyway, no, we're filming it right now. I think we're going to wrap in a month or two. We're not on as many this year, but we have like 5 or 6 projects with them. I think it's going to come out in the fall. But anyhow, what I was saying about Instagram and stuff is, yes, many people reach out and be like, oh, I wish I could do what you do. And like, it's super flattering. But you can see from this podcast, every good company has challenges, right? I mean, we see how the sausage is made, online. It just looks like everything's perfect, but nothing's perfect. It's how you deal with challenges and problems and all of that stuff. I totally understand. I'm fortunate. I'm not where I want to be. I think we have a lot of growth ahead of us, and I'm excited for that. But yes, if I could go 5, 6, 7 years ago and look at what we're doing now, I think I'd be thrilled. I'd be thrilled. So I've started about a month ago. I started, and I'm a big proponent of, mental health. Like I exercise a lot just to really clear my mind. And if I don't do that, I can go to a dark place or whatever. But I started this thing where it's nothing groundbreaking, but I have a task list on my phone, and every morning I will write down 5 things I'm thankful for. You know what I mean? And do it every day. And some days it's a little harder. It takes me a little bit longer. If I just started talking about my kids, I'm sure I could do 5 things really easy, but I try and mix it up. And that's been something that's given me a little bit of perspective. I should be thankful every day for this company, and I shouldn't wake up dreading my task list. People I know my life is someone's goal. You know what I mean? What I have now. And I'm super appreciative of that. And even if we don't get any better or bigger or whatever, we're still doing things I had always hoped we would do. So I'm super thankful for that, and appreciative of the people that have given us a shot, and, architects and designers, and obviously our homeowners. So we definitely have room to grow, but I think it's healthy to look back and see where you came from, like that spec house where I didn't know what I was doing.
Do you ever, looking back over the 9 years, was there a point in time where, you used the term springboard in the beginning as that spec was your springboard, you got the neighbor's house adjacent to it, but was there another point in your career that was really pivotal or pivotal?
Yeah,
pivotal.
Yeah.
Pivotal.
Pivotal. I can easily point to that. It was in 2018.
Okay.
I didn't understand the value of networking,
Mm.
as far as with architects and designers.
And when you say you didn't understand the value, you weren't working with them, or you were
Right.
working with them, but
Well,
not really like being on their team.
I wasn't courting the best in the business.
Mm.
So I mean, I don't. I love working with the McGee's, and I'm not naive. I know I owe a lot of success to them because, I mean, they have 3 billion followers or whatever, 3 million, but they'll probably get to billion. But anyway, they're great people. I built their house. Like, that's really helped us. You know, like, oh, if he's good enough for Shay, he's good for us. You know what I mean?
Cool.
So I also don't want to discount the other great people we work with. And
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, Sid and Shay have been great for us, and I think they're great people. You know, you build someone's house, you could really get to know them, and we're still friends. So they're great. But in 2018 is when I kind of noticed the whole designer thing, and Shay was obviously on the up and already great company, and she had posted one of our photos of a home we built, and it got some traction, and we just started messaging, and I was like, I'd really love to do one with you guys. And I had forwarded clients to her, and they just had never worked out. And I was like, you know what, dang it, I'm just going to hire them for a spec house. So I did a spec house, and I hired them, and we put it in the Parade of Homes. And that was the start of me working with them, and the start of other designers wanting to work with us because we had done a good job with the McGee's. So my plan was, by hiring them, that they would see that we are a very good builder to work with. And it totally worked. I got them. So when we finished that one, her and Sid asked us to build their personal home, which was such a huge honor. It's a little bit out of our region, but yeah, I'd go anywhere to build for them. So that was kind of a turning point where I saw how good a good designer is. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, this is how it should be. You know what I mean? I had never gotten a packet showing an elevation of lighting. I was always just like trying to guess myself and then send pictures as like, is this okay? But they gave me CAD drawings of just how everything's supposed to look. So that was one thing. And then it just made me realize, like, there's other great designers out there and architects, and we get referred obviously by our clients, their friends. I don't put my name in the paper for builds. My best resources for future work are good architect relationships and great designer relationships. So I think that was the turning point where we started getting fantastic work. I think before then we could always build good homes, but we were limited really by our resources and budgets, right? I always saw all these beautiful, massive homes. I was like, man, I could do that, but none of my clients can pay for that. You know, that doesn't go to say, I mean, that doesn't mean we only pick the jobs by the budgets. Most of our jobs we pick by if I think we're a good fit.
It's interesting because, like, I feel the same way when we look at projects. It's like, oh, what's your project minimum or your budget minimum? And it's unfortunate that it's tied to that. But the fact of the matter is like really good work in scale costs a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's, you know, when you're trying to build a big house, you know, 4,000 square foot or bigger, like that there's a lot of scale there. And, you know, and to do that really well takes a lot of time. And, you know, and yes, so you do start to attribute a square foot cost, whether it's a $500 square foot minimum or whatever the case might be. It's like you're getting that out there because you want to make sure that you want to build a 4,000 square foot house. You know, we're going to start that conversation at $2 million for construction. Is that within range? It's like, oh my gosh, like, no, I want to build a 4,000 square foot house for $1 million. It's like, I'm not saying you can't do that, but our process doesn't allow us to hit that budget. And and yes, that means we are expensive, but that doesn't mean that we're making $1 million more than the next guy. It means that it takes us $1 million more to execute and manage the project.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. There's most people that come to us will come to us because they've seen our product, right? I'm like, well,
Right.
that product that you like so much costs this much. We could do it for less, but you won't like it as much.
Right.
Not the same product at that point.
Yeah. I mean, it won't look the same. It won't be, it won't be posted all over Pinterest or whatever, but it'll be a lovely home. You know, it's just a different cost. So, yeah, I mean, that's where we get back to what we talked about with expectations, right?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't know how to build like a track home level home. I think I would be terrible at it because I would think I would take too long. I don't think I would know what, I can't think of a better phrase, but what corners to cut is a standard for us. So I think I would be terrible about it. And some people have said, well, this builder quoted me this price. I'm like, that is a fantastic deal. Or most likely he's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's a certain budget, we get a lot of requests on our website that are just really low, and automatically respond. We're like, you know what? That's probably, I don't think we can build at that price point. And that's not because I want to make extra money. I just don't think we can.
Yeah.
I mentioned this previously, but like, if we say we have a lot of comps at a certain square footage, let's say it's $550 a foot. I spit out 3 or 4. They're lovely. Yes, you can cut it $100,000 by adjusting some of the finishes, but they're about that much. And then if your cousin is saying cousin builder saying it's $375, there's 2 things that are happening. If it's the same plan, whatever. There's 2 things that are happening. 1, he's wrong. Or 2, he's lying. Both of those things are really bad. Because even if he's not being disingenuous and he's wrong, that doesn't help anybody when you're $800,000 over budget. Mm-hmm. So that goes, again, that's with our mountain homes. There's a big learning curve, and I have that learning curve. You're spending $500,000 in excavation that someone from down in the valley who hasn't built up there, they're putting $30,000 in their budget for excavation. So again, that just comes with experience, and that sounds kind of like an old guy thing to say, but I have experience now, so I can say it. That's just something I just don't see ever going away, is someone lowballing and having to explain why we cost what we cost.
Right. Yeah, and it's more about like how do we communicate in the most effective way. Where it's like I had a client, reach out to me just today, and it got back to us and said, hey, we looked at your proposal. We did get another couple of proposals from other builders that we were interested in, and you're significantly higher. And I sat on that for a minute, and I responded, and I took my time explaining, I basically, saying, hey, I would love to understand what might be the biggest differences between our proposal, but let me go ahead and guess that our general conditions line item is probably much more substantial than everyone else's, because our material and labor costs are going to be the same, but our management and supervision and the things that we're billing for to supervise and manage the project are probably what is the most different here, because we're going to have dedicated supervision. And ultimately, yes, that certainly does make our cost more substantial than other builders, but you've reached out to us because you've seen and liked what we do, and in order for us to be able to deliver a 10 out of 10 experience like you're expecting, these are the things that we need to have in place in order to do that. And and when I sent that, I'm like, I wasn't like, all right, like, let me just see if I can negotiate. Let me, like, how much am I off? Like, I wonder if I can cut my costs. It was just almost reinstating the reason as to, hey, this is why we're more expensive. I understand. I appreciate it. Maybe we're not the right fit, and put the ball in their court to value, like, and I basically, outline, like, this isn't always a value to everyone. Some people don't find value in this. But if you do, I would, suggest we hop on the phone and talk about this in more depth.
No, it's true. Some people might be willing for the project to be a bit rockier if they can save some money.
I had a client last year. It was big house. Their budget was, I want to say, gosh, 3 or 4 million, and we ended up pricing it, and it was a crazy project. I'm like, all right, we're at 8 million. So we're way off their budget, but no problem. We'll deliver it. And he called, and we went back and forth a couple times, and he's like, listen, man, I know you'd build an amazing house. This thing would probably be a work of art. Totally appreciate that you can do that. I just don't care about that. I don't care about the quality being 10 out of 10. I'd rather get a bigger house with lesser quality. That's what's important to me. And I was like, man, I really appreciate you telling me that.
Yeah. I had one last year, same situation. So he really likes us, but he's like, nah, I want a cheaper house. Okay. Yeah. All right. I don't know how to do that, but go for it.
Right.
So, no, it's
even those houses at that price point. I know, Nick, you and I have discussed this, where it's like somebody can build you a house for half that price, and it can be an amazing house for half that price. But like, it's a completely different house. And that's not to say that it's good or bad. Like they for the, if it's 2 million versus 1 million, they may have executed a $1 million house hands down better than you could have ever done that. It's just completely different. So it's not to say that it's a bad house. It's not to say that it's a cheap house. It's just different. And the way that they're able to value engineer and execute that house at that price point is probably something that you can't do. And if that's what you're looking for, like, that's the contractor that you hire for that. Sorry, we just had a visitor. Look at this. Look at this.
Oh, wow.
Epic.
That's nice.
My wife. Just kidding.
She's really talented. You're lucky to have her.
Yeah.
Is that Crayola?
She's an amazing artist with popsicle sticks and paper plates.
Tyler, what, going back to this whole Netflix thing, what is that like? You're talking about all of these projects that you have going on. You're short in text and on the phone sometimes. You're trying to make it to the site 50% of the time, but feeling rushed to get back to the office. And on top of that, you're filming a TV show. So how did that come about? Like, what, and what is your overall viewpoint on it in doing this show?
Well, happy to do it. I think it's a good opportunity. I never wanted to be a TV star, which I'm not. I'm just an accessory on in that show to.
Do you show up in the cast list?
To say yes, ma'am, to Shay, but no, I'm teasing. But no, I definitely didn't do it for. I mean, yeah, it's exciting. We went before the first season. They flew us out to Netflix headquarters, and it was a secret then. And I was like, wow, this is really cool that I'm here. And we met with their executives, and it was, I don't know why I'm here, but okay. But anyhow, that was before they even knew what the show was. They were just kind of pitching the idea. So very exciting, and I think we're very fortunate to be on it. At the same time, like it's hard. It's hard. We weren't going to do as many this year just because the main reason. So Killowen got definitely some notoriety about being on the first season. Well, first and second, they just kind of split it into 2 seasons. It was really 1 season, but it was good. But like at the same time, it showed us as like these small remodelers, and that's really not what we do.
Right.
So for a long time, we just got emails and emails and emails. Hey, can you do my kitchen? Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? And we just don't. Right. That's not what we do. So, but that's fine. That's what the show is. The main reason we did it is Shay's, a friend, and we want to be her builder, and I feel like we are. And I think if I saw one of my competitors on that show, I would be mad.
They'd end up on the hit
They'd
list.
be on the list. Yeah.
Not hit list. It sounds
Sorry,
like
what was it?
Chip list.
Chip.
No, I want to take care of her, and there's been some that I won't get into details where like we took on the project because it wasn't working out with the team that was assembled, right?
Sure.
And her team have reached out to me like, hey, this isn't working out. Can you fit this one in? And
yeah,
the answer probably should have been no, but we're gonna make it work.
Right.
So it's definitely worth it to me just to work with the McGee's, not just Sid and Shay, but I've really, become really good friends and colleagues with their team and their designers and their just the way they do business. We want to be their guy. So
right.
That's the main reason behind it. I have no hopes for like a spin-off or anything like that. It is super challenging because and rightfully so. So production and Netflix, the reason I need to remind myself all the time, the reason we're doing these projects is so they can film them, right? But like I want to run it like a construction job, one of mine that's just like
which is totally different.
And we're getting stuff done, and then they're like, but we got to film this, and we're working with some partners for some windows or whatever, and it won't be here till this day, but please don't film it because we can only film on Thursday, so don't install it yet. And then there's also hard deadlines because they have a production, they have budgets, they have to order, they have to schedule their cameras and their flights and all that stuff. So there's a lot of stuff project management wise that is unexpected, right?
Yeah.
And also probably the worst time in history to do a show like this because of the lack of manpower for small jobs and materials. When you're on such a tight timeline to get appliances. I mean, I'm sure our big houses, we order appliances a year out, and then we just get a job and we're like, okay, we have to have appliances in 3 months. I'm like, okay, that's how are we going to do that? Right. So there's, it's a really good exercise in project management, and just coordination. And it's definitely not for the faint of heart. It's a lot of work, but again, happy to do it. I don't know about future seasons or whatever, but we're going to wrap this one up. So, I don't know. It's good.
It is better when you have a budget to film something, though, where they have like multiple cameras going, and like there's a huge difference between like filming something for a magazine and then filming something for a larger company where they have like multiple. It's like we can shoot it a couple of times rather than like 15 times doing the same thing, so they get a different shot from every different angle.
Sure. Well, and I can't say enough. They're super professional. The show looks beautiful. Really well done, really well filmed. I think I look like a dummy, but I'm just I'm just uncomfortable on camera, and I don't know. I guess I was most nervous about looking stupid. About like, that's another reason I don't do a lot of podcasts. I actually don't listen to them because I know there's probably things I'll say that in a month I'll disagree with. But
like the bonus structure,
my own
the bonus
structure, yeah. But no, I was on one a long time ago, and I remember trying to like re-listen to it, and I was like, oh, I don't agree with that. What was I thinking? But we have the right to change our minds. But just on camera, when you listen to yourself recorded, you're like, I really sound like that. I just think it's way worse to see it on TV. But I was excited about that to show my children, because they don't really understand that Daddy was going to be on Netflix, and they love Netflix. Flip it on and watch,
right?
Coco Melon or whatever they're watching. And then I surprised them. I was like, hey, look, who's that on TV? They're like, is that you, Dad? Oh, cool. And then they just
they don't care.
So they don't care at all. I'm like, well, at school, are any of the other daddies on TV? And they're like, Dad, what? You just build houses, right? I was like, yeah.
And then you're
right.
trying to convince them. You're like, it's pretty cool, right? And they just don't even
Yeah.
care.
No,
Then they're
they don't
playing
think
with
it's
like a
cool.
cardboard
Well,
box in the other room. And I'm like, seriously?
and then on the flip side, like there's people from like South America or whatever who just are like, we love the show. You guys are so awesome. We love it. Love it, love it, love it. And then like people in my hometown go out of their way to tell me they haven't watched it.
They go out of their way to
Like,
tell you haven't?
that they haven't watched it. I'll see people in the grocery store like, oh yeah, you're on that TV show. I haven't watched it.
Cool.
You're on the list now.
Cool. I was like, you don't have to. It's not my show. It's fine.
Just so you know, you're number 15, lady.
No, but that happens a lot. And then occasionally, just really randomly, like if there's a level of like 0 to 100 for being famous, I'm like at like number 1, right? So like just like barely above like my dad. who's not on TV, right? So, but like occasionally I'll run into someone at the gym or whatever on the road. Be like, there was one guy that like honked at me like at a stoplight, and he was like just like this. He yelled at me. He's like, "Hey, hey!" And I was like, "All right, here we go. I think we got to roll." And I thought I cut him off or something. And I look over. He's like, "Love you on the show, dude," and he sped off. I was like, "Oh, that's good. That's positive." But there's also people that were mean about it. But I think that's just the internet. So anyway, it's definitely an interesting experience. I'm glad we've had. But
well, it's going back to what you said. It's like, you know, being on the show, doing these like small remodels, and then getting an influx of work that you don't want to do. You know, obviously that's not the goal. And I look at like, you know, Shay and her team, like those projects, I don't think outside looking in, like that's not their ultimate goal. Their ultimate goal is to do big projects and build homes too.
It's
and
not.
You know, it's have been on that side of like discussion for like production. It's like that's what fits TV though. And if you start wanting to create brand, and obviously McGee has, you know, partnered with Target and big brands and things like that, you know, you need to kind of mold your way into, you know, what makes sense for TV, and then hopefully evolve that over time. But it's like now, like, and I see like your Instagram, like you've changed like the way you promote and kind of share the behind the scenes. And I think recently you even had someone else walking around with the camera, and you were explaining like that circular room that you're building. Like that's super cool. And it's like now someone can find you on that show and then find you back on social media and then be like, oh no, this is what he does.
This is what they do.
Yeah, he's
absolutely
building homes.
Yeah. So I mean, I mentioned some negative things about how it's difficult, but you know, construction is difficult in general. But the positives have definitely outweighed everything.
Totally.
And it's you know, it's fun. It's cool that we're on there. It makes you wish you had like worked on, you know, CrossFit. You know, it's about 6 months before you're filming, but
you look great, Tyler. Don't worry.
But there's I'm very insecure.
I cannot picture you in a Ford Ranger, but you look just fine, man.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I have a lot of insecurities. But no, I mean, overall, I think we're going to be done filming in the next couple months. We're wrapping up a couple more projects, and
cool.
I'm excited to see it. It's fun for our team too. Like I try and get just about everybody there on a filming day. Unfortunately, they only use about 10% of what we film. So I think it's cool for them too, to just kind of experience it and get mic'd up. And it's legit. It's the real deal. And there's been some negative publicity for reality TV shows recently. Not sure if you followed that, but that won't happen here because they do it right. And I mean, also we do and again, I'm not picking a side on that or whatever, but it was a bad deal. But we're very, very careful with the product we're putting out, and permits and inspections and all that stuff. So there's so much that goes into it to create it, and you know, it's expensive to do. But yeah, you're right. I think people loved it, especially internationally. I don't think Netflix puts everything out internationally, But this one they did, and I think it was a big deal on their top 10 list worldwide for sure.
That's great.
So it's cool, and they're all professional and just super awesome to work with. So it's been a good experience. It's probably going to be my last TV experience, so I'll just enjoy it while I can.
You're going to listen to this in a month and be like, I don't know why I said that. I'm on another show coming up.
I have my own show.
I have my own spinoff.
Yeah.
Tyler, we know you have a client meeting and also 4 little ones running around looking for your attention. I did want to ask where the name Killowen came from.
It is, I don't know if you record this podcast, but you can see me.
I know it's a village, right? In like Northern Ireland.
I actually also wanted to ask what the Supple Leopard book was about.
Oh, that was on my, I definitely wanted to ask that.
Oh gosh, I need to turn my books around. Sid told me to get that one, and I haven't read it yet. Sid McGee. I think it's about being agile because I'm a big dude and I'm not very flexible. I think that's the main theme of it. I haven't read it yet.
You read that book, and then all of a sudden you're Stretch Armstrong.
All of a sudden you're supple.
All right.
I haven't read it yet, but no, Sid told me to get it. But anyway, he's more athletic than me. I can probably lift heavy things better than him. But other than that, so this is where my grandpa lived in Ireland. This little shack. So it's a little village in Ireland. He came over when he was 19 from Ireland, from Killowen. So you're right. It's a little place in Northern Ireland, and
cool.
Hard to say and spell, but it means something to me. And another thing, just I didn't ever want it to be Tyler Farrell Construction or whatever. Not lots of people do that, and that's fine. But I did kind of hope if I ever had a team that they could kind of embrace Killowen. It's kind of like their thing too.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we wanted to brand it a little bit. So that's where Killowen's from, and we're proud of that. He came over when he was 19, like I said, and he didn't. I didn't know him very well. He died when I was young, but according to my father, he didn't like to talk about the old days much. We think it was either really bad or he got in trouble. But anyway, he came out here and was a farmer, worked in a coal mine in Park City, rode his horse there from here. And just a way to honor him.
It's awesome, man. Anything else before you take off?
I don't think so. I love watching your stuff. It makes me feel a little bit bad about myself that my people like you more than me, but you know what? They'd have to move across the country to work for you, so I'm not too worried.
I'm not worried about it. I'm gonna come out and visit you guys. You guys, I want to see what you guys are building. If you guys want to find more about Tyler and his company, killowenco.com. What's your handle on Instagram?
At Killowen Construction.
And then the Netflix, we're thinking that season, quote unquote, 3 is coming out this fall.
Yep.
Cool, man.
Yeah, it's October, November, sometime around there.
Very
if I
cool.
ever finish these projects.
That's probably where you got to go today.
Yeah.
Right.
One of them.
Awesome, man. Well, we appreciate you being on.
Yeah, it was an honor. I really appreciate it. I do. I think really, really highly of you guys, and very cool.
Thanks,
awesome,
man.
dude.
Appreciate your time.
He's so soft spoken.
Yeah, he was like,
he's super calm.
I wish I was in better shape for this filming of this.
That isn't good shape.
Through his shirt.
He's like casually putting his arms up, showing off his muscles.
His arm is like the size of my thigh, probably bigger.
He's just like, that's how I've always I've watched the show and heard him on Brad's podcast, but he seems so soft spoken, and obviously like when he said I'm not a yeller, I was like, well, kind of figured that.
Yeah.
He was, I can get stern and upset sometimes. I'm like, of course. I mean, everyone can, but I feel like, you're just a big teddy bear that just, obviously loves his people and loves what he does. And that's just super cool.
Yeah.
I love the fact that, He talks about being a basement dweller.
Yeah, that's like the cliche. I feel like living in your parents' basement. Everyone who moves home actually lives in their parents' basement.
It's no joke though. They build some big basements. Like if you, I remember on one of the episodes of Dream Home Makeover, they were doing someone's basement over, and they walked downstairs, and Meg was watching it with me. She goes, "That's their basement."
It's
Like
fun.
the ceiling was like 12 or 14 feet tall, and it was like, and then they walked right out their back. I'm like, dude,
I haven't. I mean, I don't follow along that closely, but it always, like a basement, always feels like a basement to me, no matter what you do with it.
dude,
You
I'm
know?
telling you, watch this.
Yeah.
It's like it's not.
I just feel
And
like even
even
like the like soundproofing and insulation because it's foundation walls that it just like it feels different than the main house.
Yeah,
But I mean, our basements are pretty much like never intended to be finished and then getting refinished,
right.
so they are a basement. It wasn't
Totally.
like built with that, in the house in mind.
I mean, even looking at the McGee house on his website, it's like, yeah, that's a pretty standard like size home. Like it's not overly large. And then you catch the behind the scenes glimpse of
4,000
what,
square foot basement.
but it's like, but also tall enough to have a half pipe in it.
Yeah.
Like I remember her, like Shay was walking around and like she had this, like she was just walking around and there was this like pit. And I messaged, I was like, what is that? She goes, oh, it's for Sid's half pipe.
Oh, yeah, I think
I
we
was like,
talked
wait,
about that.
what? It's just it's just super cool. All right, guys. Well, you know where to find us. Hit us up on Instagram. Let us know how we're doing. Shoot us a DM. Keep those shares going. Make sure. Well, Tyler, you what do you want to ask for?
Leave us a review. That's me being stern.
That's your stern.
Yeah. Nick doesn't like to ask for. We had this conversation off air where I was like, "Yo, let's like get people to leave some reviews. We'll give out, pick a few random winners and give them a hoodie, a t-shirt, and a hat. Just to get on and leave some reviews." He's like, I'm fine with giving away stuff. I just don't want to ask people for them. And I'm like, it's not about you, Nick. I think
Why does everyone keep saying that? Oh, it's not about you. I'm not that self-centered.
No, but like I don't know. I listen to podcasts and it's always important, to kind of be relevant in the podcast search and kind of hit that whole algorithm and like it right. We're looking to record this podcast essentially for free. Like it doesn't cost anyone to listen to it, and we have sponsors who pay us good money to get the word out for them, and these partnerships that we have that we're looking to kind of bring them value as well and get the word out, and that helps us, it helps them. It continues to allow us to devote time, stepping away from work and stepping away from our family to record this podcast. So getting on there and leaving us a review, although it may sound like it's inconsequential, it helps us a lot. And it does provide, our sponsors with value and essentially allows us to spend the time that we need to record the podcast. So do it.
So leave us a review. Next week we'll take a peek and we'll pick someone random and we'll get you some merch. And we'll try to keep that going week after week until we run out of money.
Yeah.
As always, thanks to our sponsors, Duration Molding and Millwork, Reno Run, as well as Rockwool. We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.